Today I'm checking out a plugin that's not an amp sim, but I'm going to use it like one anyways, and it's the new Coldfire distortion from Arturia. It's a pretty neat design, fairly unique, and something that I've kind of thought would be a nice idea for an amp sim for a while. So when I saw this and read a little bit about it, I thought that would be a fun thing to check out. Now, I did ask to review this, and they were nice enough to send me a copy, so it's not a paid review, it's not a sponsored slot. However, I am going to put the little tag in there because I did receive it for free. First, I've got a full mix demo track for you, and it's a little different from my usual metal stuff. It's more of a dark synthwave type thing, but it was just inspired by playing some keyboard sounds through Coldfire and coming up with some interesting things. So take a listen. I'll show you what I did in this mix, and then I'll play through a bunch of different sounds on guitar. So first, here are the rhythm guitars. I've just got a noise gate in front, and then Coldfire is doing all the guitar processing except the IR. I've got the germanium on one side running serial into the tube drive. I've got a little pre-filter high pass just to cut out some of the lows around 100 hertz before the tube section. And then that's running directly into one of my new IRs coming soon, which is a 412 with 4 different speakers blended together. So here's the rhythm tone. Next is the guitar lead. I've got a similar setup, except I'm using the slapback echo preset, but I cranked the drive up on it a lot. And that's giving it a cool panning type thing. It's running in stereo mode. I'm using the Scorpion speaker from my Bandit as my IR. And then I've got the analog rack delay, just giving it a little extra delay. The foundation of this track, and the first part I wrote, is just a little bass line using this IDM drum maker preset, which has a cool sequencer. The bass is actually not really doing anything. It's basically just holding a low A and a few other notes here and there, but it's really simple. All the cool stuff comes from the actual IDM drum maker preset and this little sequencer action going on. For the synth on that, I'm using the OBXD, which I need to do a full video on because this is an awesome free plugin. But this is a Oberheim emulation, and this main bass part is the rock unison preset in there. I also use the rotary organ for this softer bass, which they sort of alternate. So the softer bass part sounds like this. And both of those are the same preset from Coldfire. I didn't change any of the settings on it. I just used a different synth sound going into it and came up with two pretty different sounding but similar rhythmic bass parts very quickly and easily. So I like that. I've also got a cool little rhythmic piano part using the Pianette N from Pianotech. This was an old Hohner instrument, an electric piano. And then that's going into the Incepted preset on Coldfire. I've also got a synth lead, and that is again using the OBXD with the PWM lead preset, though I tweaked some of the settings, and then the Coldfire flanger. At the end, I've got an extra sort of bass part going again through an electric piano sound into this hard sequence. For the drums, I've got the Ugratone speed metal just for kick and snare to give it some acoustic layer. And on the kick, I've got the dual drum exciter. And on the snare, I've got this drum smashed parallel bus. On the snare, I'm also using Atlantis Reverb, which is a free plugin for a big, nice, long 80s snare tail. I've got an extra drum layer here, which is Sitala, and I'm just using the stock kit. I think this is a 808 or 909 sample set, just whatever comes with this. This is a free drum machine plugin, and I've got the drum smashed parallel bus on this. I think I turned up the drive extra from this preset. It's pretty mean with Coldfire on it. It really does a nice job on the drums. And lastly, on my master bus, I'm using the Master Enhancer, and it's pretty subtle. There's not too much distortion. There's already so much of this plugin and so much distortion on this track already. So I turned down the distortion levels on this a little bit, but it does give it a little extra kick, I guess, in the right direction, and I like it better with it on. So all in all, I think it's a really great and well thought out, well designed plugin. It offers a lot of different options, and I'm definitely going to be using it on more mixes coming up. Anytime I need an extra saturator or effect, there's just a lot you can do beyond just distortion too. You can get modulated distortion and sequence distortion, and so I really like that. I haven't seen anything else quite like it. I mean, there's a lot of saturators out there, but most of them just offer maybe a couple different flavors of distortion. This is the most in-depth and creative one I've seen, and I'm sure I'm going to find a lot of ways to use it. Basically, anything you need distortion for and that you want a versatile distortion with a lot of different distortion flavors, this will be a useful thing. So we're going to check it out on guitar today. So my setup here is very simple right now. I've just got Coldfire going into NAD-IR for some guitar cabs. That's going to be needed, but otherwise, we're going to see how far we can go with just this plugin as far as a amp. As I said, it's not an amp sim, so it doesn't have all the same features as an amp, but it has plenty of distortion, and we can bring in a little EQ later and sort of round out the signal chain, but let's see how far it goes. So not much gain on it yet. We have two main gain sections here, and they're both the same, though you can do a few different things with them. So there's lots of different options, and this is what I really like about this plugin. We've got all these different types of distortion, tube, germanium, transistor, those are all, should be familiar to guitar players. There's also tape distortion, there's a wave shaper, there's a bit crusher, rectifier, all this stuff. We can go through and take a look and a listen to those. We also have routing. I've generally been playing around with the serial just because it's the most similar to a pedal into an amp or something like that, or one tube into another. So let's turn off this second channel, and we're going to first just start with the tube, and we do have an input control. I'm going to link these so that when we turn up the input, the output goes down so I don't blow my levels. Let's turn this all the way to wet, and just listen to the tube. I've got it cranked up, and if that's not enough, we can use the input here. I'm going to turn off all these post filters for now, and we are in the higher quality rendering. So here is the tube drive all the way up. So it sounds good. Definitely needs a little bit of shaping going on to get it to where we want. But so far the distortion sounds nice. A quick note on the IRs. I am using a 412 with V30s. These are my own IRs. You can go download them for free. I also have a little sneak peek at the next set of IRs that is not out yet. But I have the same 412 with a bunch of different speakers from my other cabs. So that's pretty cool. We can listen to those. But I'm just going to start out with a V30, 412, pretty standard stuff. I'm not really going to go into some of the advanced features of this plugin on this video. However, you can see if we go to advanced here, there's a lot of options. We've got pre-filters, we've got post-filters. Those can be changed. There's a compressor built in, feedback, which might be cool, but I haven't really experimented with it yet. Then there's the modulation panel where you can do things such as step sequencing, really kind of do some crazy stuff. I don't know how to use all that right now, but we could take a look at some of the presets and see if we can get some weird things going on there. So that's fun. I'm mostly just curious for now as to how well it works as an amp simulator or as a distortion pedal replacement in your signal chain. There's also this profile knob, and this changes depending on what drive type you're using. Here we can see we've got pentode or triode. Triodes are what we use for preamp tubes, so let's switch this over to 100% triode. And we can also play around with the input gain to get even more juice out of this. Before we get into stacking and combining distortions, let's just take a listen to a few of them on their own. And let's take a look at the tape drive. Now, we don't normally get to play through tape distortion as guitar players, but it's a cool thing to have. Another cool thing about this plugin is this awesome graphic in the center. I really like the interface in this. I think it's really nice looking. And the different distortion types change the color as well as how this image is distorted. So it's something I haven't seen before. and pretty neat looking. Let's try out the germanium now. All these will drive differently, so you may want to adjust the input gain, especially if you're using that as a boost. The germanium's got a fuzzier sound. Germanium, of course, was used before silicon in a lot of really old fuzz pedals, so you definitely get some of that vintage fuzz sound with that. And because we can stack two types of gain here, we could do germanium on one side and tube on the next and really get a fuzz pedal into a tube amp kind of sound with this too. And there are some different options in some of these. This is mic and aux. I'm just going to go with aux. I think that just changes the input gain here. Let's go on over to the transistor. Transistor mode can easily go very high gain, and that is sort of more of a distortion pedal type sound, whereas the germanium was more fuzzy. So we've got two different flavors of solid state clipping there, and they both sound nice. There's also this master color knob here, which is kind of a tone knob. There are more finely detailed ways to dial it in, but if you just want something a little darker or a little brighter, there's that. And of course, there's a dry-wet blend. This pedal has a ton of options, so I'd be here all day if I was going to demo everything. But let's take a look at the wave shaper, and this has a whole lot of different types of clipping, different wave shaping options. So that's another fun one. Let's take a quick listen. Last one we're going to look at, just because it's fun, is the bit crusher. And there's a soft and hard mode for clipping and bit depth. As we go down, it gets more highly detailed. Again, I love these graphics, so we can kind of see we're getting more pixelated here. There's aliasing, there's jitter. I don't even know what all of it does. It does have a great manual, which I skimmed through, but it's long, so it'll probably take me a while before I fully figure out everything this plugin has to offer. That's pretty sweet. So if you want your strange retro NES sounds, there you go. Bit Crusher. Pretty cool. But that's not quite what we're here for. Let's try dialing in a little more normal guitar sound, and I'll bring in the second distortion channel over here. We'll get them both on tube to start, and then we can try out some other things. And let's set them both to triode. I'm going to turn this one on. You can route it different ways, but we're just going to go serial, so one tube into the other. It's a little spiky on the high end, so let's add in this post filter here and set a little bit of a low pass and a high pass. And then we can also do maybe some pre-filtering here. Let's just dial in this real quick. Then I'm going to add a pre-filter around 100 to the input of this. This is a 3-band semi-parametric EQ, the Slick EQ. This is a free plugin from Tokyo Dawn Labs. I haven't tried it at all. I just downloaded this, but I figured it looks like it might be a good kind of 3-band EQ for a guitar. I've got this before the IR, so just like in a tube amp, we've got the preamp tubes going into an EQ. Rather than having two of these tube sections, I'm going to switch this one over to the transistor. I'm going to pull back the gain because this one does have a lot of gain on it. And of course, you can always increase the gain with the input as well, or boost the output of the first section into the second, since we are running serial. Try out the germanium. This is going to get us more into fuzz territory, so it may get a little bit weirder, but that's cool. like the germanium a lot, since I love fuzz. And of course, we could combine any of these in any way we want. Let's do a quick demo with this tone with a couple different speakers, and then let's go through just a few of the presets, because I don't even think I understand everything about this plugin to do some really wild stuff. So we're gonna do some dive through some presets and just see if there's anything cool in there. I'm sure there is. Here's a little sneak preview of my next IR set. These are all in the 412, but with different speakers. So let's take a listen to that. Let's just start going through some random presets and see what happens. So I hope you enjoyed this. You can go check out Coldfire and download a trial if you're interested. And thanks to Arturia for providing me this for review and for your education. As always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.